Catus Maximus here. Ever had a Dremel that sound, or any kind of small rotary tool that sounds like this? As you can see, the field in this is just started to wear a little bit into the plastic, allowing it to move around. So that's why when I squeeze it just a little bit, it would actually get quiet. This starts to happen when Dremels wear, even though this Dremel is actually pretty good. This is actually one of the nice American-made Multi-Pro, 30,000 RPMs. Now, that issue is the chuck. One thing you want to make sure of is that the spindle bearings are tight. If they're loose, and this won't fix that. This is just for when the field has started to wear into the plastic a little bit. We know the motor is actually properly balanced. It's just a slight imbalance of this chuck. Problem is, pretty much all accessories have some slight imbalance, like the grinding wheels or the sanding wheels. If we turn it on without anything on the spindle, we know that the motor is good and smooth. So let's go ahead and take this apart. Probably should unplug it. We're going to unscrew that front cap. We're going to go ahead and pull off this little clip here. We're also going to need to pull out the brushes just for the sake of it, so that they don't accidentally come flying out if things kind of come apart. When you pull out brushes, you want to make sure the orientation. So I'm going to remember that this is the bottom side brush, and I'm going to actually set it off just like so I can put it in the exact same orientation and side of the motor that it came out of. Otherwise, you'll get some noise from the brushes because they wear in a particular way. And so it's actually pretty important to do this. We'll do the same thing with that brush over there. And then we got some T15s. We got 4 of them. Those are actually pretty tight. And so the gist of this is we're just going to put something in between the field. Something pretty thin. I have some of these little plastic, kind of soft little gummy washers, and we're going to see if that's going to be enough to stuff in there. And that's all we're doing. You can try to find something, little pieces of foam, maybe like this, maybe little pieces of silicone, something that's pretty thin that we're just going to shim the body with. We don't want to make anything too thick, otherwise it's going to cause the body to want to split apart. And 2 more screws at the back. Nicely made fasteners. Fit tight on the driver. There we are. And then there's the interior of our tool. One unfortunate, or I should say, they do include a little rubber isolator on the back bearing to help it stay a little bit smoother. It's really difficult to, you can replace the back bearing pretty easy, but this front bearing has actually captured the spindle on Dremels. It's actually a separate machine part that's press fit onto the motor. You needed a special puller that has a little rod that can go down inside here and then grab. So kind of difficult to replace the bearings, but we're here just to shim it. So all we're going to do is lift this assembly out of here, and I'm just going to take some of my little washer things and just line them up just like so, and simply set this right back in here again. Really a pretty easy and simple process. And I'm going to take 3 more. I'm going to put them on this side. Keep on getting out of frame here. And then we're just going to pop this cover on and make sure that it seems to want to stay together, and that we haven't made it too thick. I will mention that Dremels come with cords that have in molded strain release to capture them in the body, but this little post here or this little area actually allows a standard strain relief and a standard clamp. It just doesn't come with that because Dremel opted to go with a little bit cheaper cord. But you can replace the cords and just take a small piece of metal or even plastic, drill a couple holes in it, and make a little pinch that will pinch the wire, and then you can use a standard slip over strain relief. So at least that option is there. Now we just, that looks like it's going to be just fine. Let me screw this back together. Now we've got it back together. We got this just about perfect. You can see there's just a little bit of a gap, and that will settle in as those little soft little rubbery washers start to compress it over time. But that's about perfect because you want to have just a little bit of extra tension. Make sure it seems to work properly. Now we're going to put this back on, which was making it vibrate so much. There we go. A little bit of noise still, but really not too bad. The other thing I should mention is that you do need to put something, it's pretty important, the tolerance between this spindle and the field, it's really, really tight. So if you only put some washers on one side, it may actually, and since the bearings are held by the plastic case, you may actually shift the field down enough to cause the armature, the spinning part, to actually make contact. So when you do this, you got to try to find something thin enough where you can put a little bit on each side so that it stays symmetrical. But something that simple, you can take a Dremel that's just super noisy that you don't really want to use anymore, when otherwise it's a fine tool. And it won't be perfect, but it certainly is a lot better than it used to be. Anyway, just want to make a little video about that. I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Till next time, Catus Maximus out.